Welcome back to another episode of Shedcast, the shed hunting podcast. Today we got Zach Childers on with us
Yeah,
today. Another great shed hunter that probably needs no introduction, but wanted to get you on, pick your brain, hear some stories, and go ahead and introduce yourself and let us know who you are, Zach.
awesome. Yeah. So I'm Zach Childers. Honestly, I feel like I'm just a regular guy. I don't have like a crazy huge following, but I probably have some people that like following along with my story. And I just really like getting out, obviously, and sharing some of my finds with other people. So obviously just super passionate about hunting and shed hunting, but it's a privilege to be on here. So I appreciate you bringing me on.
Yeah, no, thank you. I appreciate you coming on. It's a little difficult getting everybody's schedules together, but once we lock in a date, I feel like let's run it and see where it goes.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
First thing I just wanted to get just who you are, just what you do on a regular basis. I know you're a husband, a dad, got a lot going on in addition to the like content creation, but I even saw you fly those, I don't even know what they're called, the
So a little bit about me, I guess. I grew up outside of Boise, Idaho. So kind of all of my hunting and everything started over there. Um, I'm the only hunter. A lot of people are surprised, but I'm the only hunter in my immediate family. And I just kind of started out, I guess. It was kind of around when I was probably 10 or 12, I guess. My dad had us take hunter's ed because he wanted us to be safe with firearms and stuff and took us out like shooting rabbits and stuff, but nothing too crazy. But I had passion for it and wanted to get more into it from there. It just sparked an interest and had some friends around me. Ended up meeting one of my best friends. And anyways, we can dive more into that, but got into shed hunting. So most of my beginning started out next to Boise, but now I'm actually in northern Utah going to school full time. So I'm getting my marketing degree and I'm actually also a pre-dental student at the same time. So a lot of people are like, what are you doing? But I didn't just want to get like a biology degree or something like that. So I decided to go the marketing route and it kind of allowed me to take some business classes and get more than just all the science stuff that you need for dental school. So that's what I've been up to. Yeah, married, have a little 3-year-old boy running around, almost 4. So that's definitely been changed some things.
Oh yeah.
But honestly, if anything, like it's just made me appreciate getting outside even more and just kind of reminded me like why I love all the things I do. Cause heck, he sees a 2 point and he gets pretty pumped. So it's super fun.
It is. It's cool to pass all that down to them too, and then you see that in them. I mean, and he's even younger than you were when you started too, so he's just gonna get all that experience and all that stuff you learned on your own. He's gonna get it passed down to him. I wouldn't say easier, but you get those hard lessons that you learned along the way, and you get to pass them along and be like, "Hey, don't do this or don't do that. I've done that before."
Yeah. It's like, man, what I would have given for my Onyx pins these days when I was starting out,
Cut into the chase a little bit on some of those spots where you walk miles and find nothing.
Exactly. Yeah. But yeah, it's super fun. It's definitely, I mean, a lot of people I know are like, "Oh, sorry, I can't go. I got to watch my kids." But I'm like, I'm taking him with me. He goes on the backpack and a lot of my summer scouting and stuff. It's just, I just look at it as a good workout at this point. But yeah, it's super fun.
Yeah, it's awesome while they're that small to put them on your back.
I know he's getting to the point where I'm like, probably not going to happen very much longer, but we'll figure out something. So,
It's really cool to take them along. My son's getting a little older. I have a daughter that's 15 now. My son's about to turn 14, and this last summer I had him we went on like a little shed trip into the mountains, myself and Jake Kreckman. He runs Bones Outdoors, and we hiked in pretty good. He was even like, I was pretty impressed with your son doing that stuff. I fixed up his pack all as best as I could with packing in a bunch of snacks and food and tried to make it as light as I could for him, but then also bring all the necessities that he's going to
yeah.
need to like keep him warm if he needed to. And he did well with us. We didn't have a great shed trip. So I was kind of hoping that we would stumble into some good pockets and have him like it even more. But we found a few, but not enough yet. I still want to take him out for some more to just get him hooked on it.
Absolutely. I had that a little bit. I took my wife and son out this year and I was like, man, first thing we saw was just a bunch of boot tracks right where we wanted to go. But it's the same thing. I just hope they have a good experience. You know how much it takes and how many days you don't find stuff.
Mhm.
But when you do, it's the best thing ever. And we ended up having a good day, but it's always like, man, I just want somebody else to experience all this too, because it's just so much fun.
Want to take the most misery you can out of it, like, as
Yeah.
possible. It's great. For me, I feel like I'm down for it. Like, I love kinda going through it, but I know other people, like my kids or something, they just need that shorter time span to just, like, hopefully find something sooner. That way, it just makes them work a little harder for the next one, but
Yep,
it's
exactly.
evolving. Yeah, you gotta
Yeah.
it's a
How old
work
are
in
your kids
progress.
then?
My daughter just turned 15, and then my son is about to turn 14 this month, actually. So they're a little older.
Yeah.
They've gone with me on several occasions. We found stuff together. My son, one of the time earlier this year, also said, "It's hard when I go with you because you just find things first." And I'm like, I mean, I'm trying to help you, and I try to like not make it
Yeah.
obvious. Like I'm like, just look over
Yeah.
there. He already knows like there's something probably on the ground there. So I'm trying to just not say anything, but lead him there. We'll see how that works, but
That's
trying to
awesome.
figure it out. You were saying, so you started your dad put you in a class, started
Yeah.
kinda getting an interest in it, which is pretty good for that young of an age to pique your interest in it. When did
Yeah,
you
I feel
start
like
shed hunting?
honestly looking back, it all lined up pretty perfectly because we had done that hunter's ed class and like I was always pretty involved with like scouts and stuff. Always had a lot of
Outdoorsy?
experience outdoors, right? But I ended up meeting one of my best friends and he lived kind of on the outskirts of town, so just against a bunch of mountains. And so we started exploring like after school and stuff. And it was probably like the first month I had known this kid. So funny because at the time I'd like told my mom I thought he was gonna be weird and didn't wanna go over and hang out with him. But this like totally sparked everything that I've done in hunting. But so we ended up going for some hikes and I remember he picked up just like a 2 point, like not far from his house, and was like, "You can keep this," and gave it to me. And I was just mind blown because I had no idea that that was a thing. So anyways, after that, we started hiking more and like specifically looking for him, and that just turned into like this huge thing.
How old did you say you were at that age?
I wasn't old enough to hunt at the time in Idaho, so I was probably 10 or 11,
Oh, even
but I
better.
started hunting. One of the next times I went to his house, they rolled up with 2 deer on their four-wheeler, and I was like, this is pretty cool. So I started hunting the next year. Him and I ended up shooting 2 bucks just right next to each other the next year. Just went off from there. So beyond there, a lot of it turned into just like my parents were super nice and they'd go drop me off. I would find a spot on a map and they'd go drop me off for the day and I'd tell them to pick me up before dark. So the majority of my stuff was just, I got to find the spots that probably everybody else in Boise was hitting, but I was, it's as far as my parents can drive me, or I didn't want to ask them to drive me super far.
Yeah.
So I just made do with what I could hike. I found some pretty cool stuff even back then and I was just super, super fun.
That is some just having your parents just drop you off and just going for it.
Yeah. Yeah, they're super
Yeah.
nice. I don't know. They had a lot of trust in me. It kept me out of trouble, obviously. There's probably worse things I could be doing, but
Was Onyx around yet that time frame? Or
I
easier?
I definitely used Onyx.
Okay.
I feel like shed hunting was obviously people have been doing it forever, but it wasn't a huge thing.
Social media wasn't as blown up yet.
Yeah, like it was funny. I was looking the other day. I'm not really a person. I mean, this is gonna sound mean, maybe, but I don't care how many followers you have. But I do
Mhm.
love following people that are like, man, that guy like gets after it.
Die hard for it.
It's just
Absolutely.
like, man, they have a real passion for it and they get after it. I think sometimes there's people that I'm like, yeah, like he has a lot of followers maybe, but he also like gets after it, like
Mhm.
respect.
Mhm.
I was just looking through some of the people, obviously, you've had him on your podcast, but I
Oh.
remember watching Eric Chesser
Mhm.
and some of his overnight trips and just thinking that was like the coolest thing ever. Because obviously, I didn't have a huge influence in my family inspiring me to go do any of this. And they were very supportive and stuff, but it was a lot of people that were just sharing on social media that sparked this huge interest. And I was always like, man, I got to go to all these places they're going. I got to go try Utah. I got to go to Arizona. So yeah, definitely appreciate that. And that led into me sharing some of my stuff. It's fun looking back at those pictures. I just remember how excited I got seeing a 4 point, you know? So
Do you still
super
have
cool.
the first shed you got?
I do. Yeah, I
Yeah,
have it out here.
yeah. That's awesome. Those are always the keepers, you know?
This is the keeper right
That is
there.
awesome right there. Yeah,
Yeah,
that's
so
funny. A lot of the guys still have them too, so a lot of people I talk to and I still have my first one I found on my own. I was, I think, 25 when I found my first shed on a mountain we were hunting in
yeah.
Arizona, and I knew they shed because 'cause I'd read about it and stuff. I'll never let that one go. That one's number 1 that sparked that just lit that fire, just like you're talking about. That's awesome
Yeah,
to hear, especially for you at such a young age to just start picking it up, and then it ultimately shapes your life, honestly, I think.
yeah,
So, that's awesome to
absolutely.
see. Yeah, and the content sharing is spot on as well. I mean, you get inspired by so many different people. Like you said, I see people that are just diehards that don't care about how many followers they have. None of that really matters anyways, but
Yeah,
sharing the content and it grows and grows, and I that's what I like to. I try to follow as many shed hunters as I can, so that way my feed, when I look at, like, the For You pages is just full of elk and deer and sheds and stuff. I try to, like,
yeah.
make it as just filled as possible, so when I just look at that page and it just feeds me more sheds.
Yeah, for sure. I definitely agree with that. It's interesting. I love that aspect of it. I love coming across people that get after it all the time and they've never posted a picture of anything. And I'm like, man, there's
Oh,
so
yeah.
many more people than we see even on social media getting out there. But I am like, yeah, if I share it with one other kid that was my age, you know, I imagine me without seeing everybody get after it, I would have never been doing all this. So it's super awesome to think about.
Do like that content sharing side of it, what it the positivity it brings and it just spirals. And that in itself also changes the course of what people so I appreciate it. When I see it, I'm like, heck yeah. My main thing, and I say it all the time, is just I want everybody to win. And I
Yeah.
want everybody to feel how I feel when I'm winning too. So
Yeah.
that's my positivity that I try to push out there and try to have it snowball for everybody else. So it's cool to
Yeah.
see on yours too, through your content are really a positive person, so I like that, and then that obviously is who you are, so then that just helps everybody else too, and just get inspired. I watch a shed hunting video and I'm like, get all jacked up and like, "All right, now I'm ready to go."
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, there's
Which
definitely that aspect of it that's like you just got to balance it. Like I feel like the thing that a bunch of people run into with hunting is it can get super competitive and it's I got to have this secret spot and obviously everybody's got that. But also the excitement that I feel when I go pick up a moose shed, I want everybody to experience that. As much as I don't want them to go pick up my moose sheds, I'm also like, if you put in the work and go find it, congrats. I'm going to come check it out and be just as stoked as you are because I know how much work it takes is I think the biggest thing.
that is one of the things I saw you were talking about on your most recent YouTube videos when you were talking about the moose sheds that you were finding in that video
Yeah.
is, and I was gonna ask that even, but just the fact that you were saying some days aren't always like this, and a lot of people don't see that with the social media side of it, or just posting endless miles isn't always great content per se, you know. So I would assume most shed hunters know that too, but you know how hard and how much work goes into that. Sometimes you get lucky and it's like, oh, I'm a minute into, I just left the truck and I found one, but not
Yeah.
every day like that, and it's hard work, and it just feels good.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm always like, man, I'd love to share the days that I'm just not finding anything just so people understand, but also nobody's gonna care or watch that.
You know,
Hopefully they can see with how excited I am when I pick up a 2 point after 3 days of finding nothing. But
it's
yeah,
hard to get skunked sometimes.
yeah.
But on that shed hunt though, you picked up a just bomber deadhead on that. That thing was freaking awesome.
Yeah.
With that one and then all those other sheds you picked up, but you picked up in particular side by well, not a side by side set, a piece of a set that you had found previously, right? I just wanted to see if you wanted to lay that story out for us real quick.
So I had
I
two
know you did
two
a video
videos.
on it as well. Yeah.
Yeah.
Just like
So
a short version of it.
yeah, so that bull was crazy. So The biggest thing is I spend a lot of time in a ton of different units. I try not to put my eggs in one basket. So it's interesting. Every unit I go to or region, everybody sets a level of what they expect to find in there. And for whatever reason, I don't know what it is, but maybe you understand. But this spot just became super special to me. And I was like, I'm going to find a big bull in there and I'm going to pick him up. Like, this is going to be the year. So
Mhm.
last year, I literally feel like I looked over. I felt like I had found every bull on the mountain, but I still picked up sheds that I had never seen. Anyways, I ended up seeing that bull in November with one side. It was like mid-November, I want to say. I think that's the one you're talking about, but super pumped about it because I was like, man, people always share pictures finding moose sheds early in the year. And it happens. I mean, it happens with deer and elk too. But I saw this bull and I was like, there's no way. Like, no way. Because I had just come from another area where I was watching bulls still rutting. But long story short, I ended up spending, I don't know, I think I said 6 or 7 days. I wouldn't be surprised if it was more than that, looking for
Mhm.
that bull. And there was one other one in that area. And I thought I knew exactly where he was going to drop. Like, you saw you've seen me pick up a lot of moose sheds this year, but I spent way more days in this spot than any of those spots. So it's just funny that I didn't find anything in there. But anyways, ended up just trying a completely different spot on a map for that bull, and not even for that bull, I guess. I was just hoping to pick up a moose shed. And sure enough, he had moved 2 miles as the crow flies. And he basically had to climb 2,000 feet, drop another 2,000 feet into this area. So it was just like,
That's a big,
I don't know.
big
I know he
area.
didn't do that with the one side that I had seen him with. If you guys haven't, you'll have to go, if anybody's listening, they'll have to go check out that.
It's good
Yeah.
because you include footage of the bull itself too, so being able to see it, and then you're obviously including the pickups and stuff like that in it. So it was a cool story. I just wanted to reiterate
Yeah.
how far apart that is, and I even commented to you, I'm like, that takes dedicated shed hunter to find that for one, and two, because there is so much country between 1 mile, let alone 2 miles, and there's so many places that shed could have been, and
Yeah.
you ended up finding it. Is wild.
Yeah, I was just blown away. I was like, man, I mean, I felt like I'd hit like every pocket in there, and it's just goes to show you. I was pretty confident somebody had already picked it up, but
Mhm.
you always have to bet on the animal, it seems like.
Yeah. I always go with the notion people just don't see what you see, or you just never know. People don't cover the ground like you do. There's a lot of great shed hunters out there, but every year things get left behind no matter what. That's one of the reasons that keeps you motivated and keeps you going, because you have that little piece of information in the back of your head. Like, someone may have picked it up, but then there's a possibility nobody didn't either. So it just makes you want to go again, even if you just get back. Like we talked about, if you have a day where you get skunked and you already know, well, that little pocket wasn't it. So you're already looking at a map and figuring out where you're going to go next and hit that next one the next time, and just starts burning a hole in your pocket per se, where you're like, I got to go again.
Yeah. Yeah, it's tough.
You mentioned you picked up a bunch of moose sheds. So with moose sheds in general, are you finding any overlap between elk and deer in there as well? Are they hitting same things, same feeds? Are you noticing any differences in that?
Yeah, so it's super interesting because it took me a lot of years. I posted not too long ago about this. It's kind of embarrassing how long it took me to actually figure out where to find moose sheds. I feel like the average Joe would have figured it out faster, but the
I didn't
truth
know
of it
that.
is, I honestly just think they just take a lot more, and this is going to sound prideful, but I feel like they just take a lot more work than any other
Mhm,
type of shed because they
mhm,
are a lot of times just in the same areas. And a lot of those years that I spent trying to figure them out, I was right in the right zones. I wasn't hitting it hard enough. I'd go in there and pick up some deer and elk sheds and be pumped, but I just wasn't gritting hard enough to run in. It's just an odds game, really. With elk and deer, it seems like a lot of the groups you'll find might have 10 bulls or so, maybe
mhm,
more. And so you're thinking there's going to be 20 browns in that canyon at some point,
mhm,
and you might find two of those bulls, But with a
mhm,
moose, it's like, man, I got three different huge basins and there's one or maybe two bowls in that. So it really just is about putting in the miles. It's obvious, but it seems like that's what it takes. But there's definitely an overlap to answer your question. We're always picking up deer and elk sheds while
mhm,
we're finding moose sheds. There is pockets I'll find that I'm like, most likely the moose is going to hang out in here. It's the super nasty, thick brush that elk and deer kind of steer away from, but the moose don't seem to care. They eat everything, and it's amazing watching them just cook through all that stuff. And I come out with bloody legs and arms. It's tough because everybody asks me, what elevation are you finding them at? And even that, I wish there was one set answer. My buddy and I always joke the best place to find moose sheds is where you find them, because
Absolutely.
one of them, like, odds are maybe there was another bowl there at some point, but there's not a set elevation I'm always finding them at, because you see moose, like, people post videos of them down on the riverbanks, and then they're on top of these mountains. So it's just like, really, it just comes down to knowing where they're at and then just putting in a ton of miles in that area.
That's legit. I have heard they love the thick stuff. And I have noticed that when I get into really thick stuff, when the trees are touching, I don't shed hunt for moose, but when the trees are touching and the brush is just really, really tight, stop finding a ton of sign. And then I'm like, okay, I need to get out of this spot.
It seems like they like kind of an open area versus, yeah, moose are like whatever. Yeah, they can just go anywhere they want. So
They're
yeah.
huge. So matching up sets, which you've had not just that one, you've matched up multiple sets, like you mentioned. You realize tightening up your lines or grid searching a little tighter, it takes a ton of work to match up any shed. Some of them aren't always right on top of each other like you'd want them to be, but
Yeah.
I mean, talk a little bit about that. Just if you do find a big single that you're hoping to match up, what are you
Yeah.
thinking? Like, okay, I need to match this up, and what do you start doing?
My experience with moose has been, if they're not side by side, it's almost tough luck most of the time. We have defied the odds a little bit this year with that. So I ended up picking up, one of the first things I found this year was 3 sets off of the same moose. So the
Oh, I did see
first
that.
moose set I found this year, that same day, so those were side by side. That same day, it was probably within 400 yards, matched up like 2 years ago on that same bull. He just happened to have been in that same area. But the third set of that bull, so it was like his hard whites, probably taught me the most. It was on a different winter range. So that year he had picked a different zone, probably 2.5 miles away. But I ended up finding one side. I want to say it had to be 1,500 in elevation lower than the other one. I found one in basically the sage rolling hills bottoms where I just felt like it was super lucky. And I did a ton of gridding down there, but it's sage flats. It feels like that Wyoming stuff, I guess. You're just walking around just hoping to get lucky. But I ended up matching it up on another trip in there, 100 feet up the mountain. So for whatever reason, that bull, between dropping his first side and second side, decided to basically climb or drop all the way off of this mountain.
Mhm.
So it's hard. Like, I feel like you really have to be committed. It goes along with that joke, like, the best place to find them is where you find one. Because honestly, I have one side off of this bowl. I can either go try and find a different bowl, and there's pretty slim odds, or I can just grid this for a few days and try and match this setup. It's not super often that we find a bunch of moose sheds in the same area. Sometimes you find a pocket of brown elk sheds, and there's hard
Mhm.
whites and there's chalks and everything.
Multiple.
Doesn't seem like that happens with moose very often, just because the odds of them shedding in the same spot every year are just like super lucky.
Slam. Yeah.
But yeah, I honestly think it just takes a ton of commitment. You're basically trading off going and hiking another spot and potentially finding a lot more sheds versus I'll just go to the same spot over and over until I match it up because I want
Mhm.
that set.
Cool. The work it takes. I do like that you just mentioned that the trade-off in time is big because that can make or break the difference between matching that up or not. But if you're thinking in your head, I don't think I'm going to match this up, you've already covered quite a bit of ground, and then you take off to a different spot just to go after more sheds. And then that thing, well, you've probably done it. And I know a ton of people have seen it. I've done it myself where you end up coming back and go cover some other different country, come back, cover some more ground in the spot whenever it's convenient. And then you realize, crap, I was 50 yards off of that line 6 months ago and I could have found this shed.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
So
Just a-
they're always laying out there somewhere. It's just a matter of I do like that you're saying that. It's a matter of the commitment because for me, When I first started shed hunting, I feel like I did a lot of that where I just pick up a shed and keep going. I do like that you keep mentioning because I feel that same way when it comes to hunting or shed hunting is you'll find them where they're at, not where you want them to be. Everything's going to change year to year. The water sources change, the snow levels change. So they may be higher, lower, like you mentioned. Maybe that bull got bumped by a predator, by a person, who knows? And so they change levels or they change ranges, they go over a couple basins, who knows? There's so many factors that are at play there, but the commitment level on your part is dude,
Yeah. Yeah, it's fun though. It makes it special when you do match them up. I don't know, there's something about putting together a set. It's pretty cool.
you said the furthest set you've matched up, how far apart was it?
I would guess it was probably coming up on a mile and just all the elevation. My buddy was with me that day and we were just trying to wrap our head around what that bull was thinking. But it goes along with we found moose sheds super low and pretty high to the
Mhm,
point where like it makes sense that they travel up and down and they
mhm.
do it in like no time at all. So more than likely that bull probably didn't hold his other side for more than a day or two, but he did decide to just completely move out of the area.
'Cause I feel like deer do that a lot. You don't always find deer sets together. They just hold them one side longer just because they're not as heavy, but when it comes to a moose shed that you're mentioning in your video, they're 8 to 10-pound pieces. They're feeling that on that side of the head, I imagine, and they wanna get
Yeah.
that other side off.
It seems like they shouldn't go very far, and a lot of the big sets we've put together have been pretty close, but you'd be surprised at some of the singles we have that it's like, you feel like they should be right there, but
Mm,
yeah, I don't
some
know.
of
And
them.
with moose especially, it's like, odds are nobody else picked up the other side because a lot of
Yeah.
times, like, once you walk up on them, they're pretty obvious, but yeah, you're like, somebody would have probably picked up this side too. So yeah, it's always a mystery when you can't match up a big moose shed. It's like I don't know, but
Or elk and deer in general too, like you mentioned. There's some big sheds that I find and it's just singles and you're grid the crap out of it and you still can't find the other side. That just that thought in your head that maybe somebody else picked up that other side or it's laying out there somewhere and I'm just not finding it, or it's in that case it could be a mile away, just a lot further than I'm gridding at that time.
yeah,
Now that I think about it, I'm like, "Man, maybe I should have worked harder to match them up," but sometimes I'm just like, "I gotta keep going and just see what else I can find."
it's a huge mental game. Yeah, absolutely.
That is a major commitment, though. I like that word keeps coming up because it's just being committed to finding more. As a husband and a dad and you're working and you're going to school, stuff like that, all of that is like the elk moving from one winter range to the next or whatever the case. It's gonna change up when you can go, how much time you're able to get out for it, and that all plays a huge factor on what you're finding. So the commitment level has to be just there 100%. So I like that.
Yeah, it's just got to be a priority. It's just one of those things like everybody feels like they don't have enough time to go do, or everybody's like, man, if I only had the time, but if you knew what my schedule looked like this last year, I don't think anybody would be very jealous. I think people have a lot more time than they're willing to admit or
Mhm.
like realize. How much time do people spend on their
A lot.
phones, or just
Mhm.
like waste not doing anything? Where for me,
Yeah.
if I can get out before class early in the morning and be on the mountain for an hour and a half and run back to class, like I'm gonna do it. But a lot of people don't feel like that's worth it. It's kind of interesting.
I agree with that. I have to drive, like, at least probably 2 hours to get into elk sheds, but which I'm willing to do any day for sure, but I need at least, like, a 4 to 5 hour window to do that when you start getting a little over an hour.
That's been a cool factor about being in Utah. Like, you do have a lot of people that shed hunt. Like
Mhm,
competition is real for sure. But you are really close to a lot of pretty amazing country. Definitely ran into that. Like I felt like I was kind of locked in over next to Boise. I felt like I had to drive a few hours before I'd like really be into stuff.
mhm.
You can definitely find them closer every once in a while, depending on where you're at. But if you have to travel a long ways, it's tough.
I do have a hard time sitting at home and just, watching Netflix or something when it's daylight out and it's a nice day, and I'm like, "Man, I could be walking around somewhere north."
Absolutely. It's super fun. I found that's a huge thing where I live now. I honestly have just totally found a passion for just watching wildlife. Shed hunting is super fun too, but more times than not, I'm just like super fascinated by the whole where they migrate, where they live in the summer. I've just enjoyed following specific animals from summer range down to their winter range. And huge part of that has been living close. I can run up, and a lot of times it takes a couple trips to even put eyes on a specific animal I'm looking for. But it's been a huge blessing being here for sure.
When did you move to Utah?
I've been in Utah, so I took a year off and I took a job in Boise again for a little over a year, I guess. I've been back in Utah for a year, but I've been down here for about 4 years now. I first moved down here and I don't even know where to start. Your Onyx is just an empty map,
Yeah.
but it's also been super fun. I feel like that's part of the fun, right? Is just always finding new spots. So I felt
Yeah.
like I was just leaving behind all these spots I worked really hard for, but I've found just as good of places or maybe even better.
Mhm.
So
Yeah, all that time and experience that you put in over there, you can translate that into new places or knowledge applies. When I talk to yeah,
absolutely. I
that's funny.
definitely see that. One of the cool things is everybody's like-minded where I'm at. You're always running into other people that hunt and shed hunt, which is super cool. Obviously, it's fun talking and meeting those people, but
Mhm.
yeah, I've really tried to like avoid having that like competitive mindset of like,
Mhm.
I gotta find the biggest stuff or whatever. Like I
Mhm.
honestly just enjoy seeing what everybody finds, and I appreciate that everybody kind of like respects the passion, I guess, and interested in it. Like it's fun being able to share the things you find and just talk about it because obviously it's a huge part of my life. Utah's a cool place.
That's pretty cool. I actually found my first sheds over there earlier in Utah earlier this year. We went up there for spring break and we were near some areas, so I snuck out in the morning while everyone was still sleeping. I even mentioned in my video, Utah gets pounded pretty hard, so hopefully I find something. But I lucked into maybe 4, 5 sheds that day, which was pretty awesome because I only had a couple hours. It turned out to be pretty cool. I was just walking, like, some random sage flats and just kinda working some hills, and got lucky.
Yeah.
That was pretty cool. So, regardless how many people are out there and how pounded a place may be, like you mentioned earlier, you can still find stuff. It's
Uh,
there.
yeah.
Got
Yeah.
gotta be committed. But with elk, deer, moose, just in general, we talked big about commitment, and I know I usually ask what kind of tips. So you had already mentioned just being committed and really working over areas, which I've heard plenty of times before, and I agree that that would be huge on finding stuff is if you know they're there or if you find other sheds, work in that area until you feel like you've covered almost every inch of it is huge. But do you have any other tips or things that you've learned along the way that may help or you feel like you focus on that helps you find more sheds?
I think one of the big ones I've like realized recently is I've been so much more successful like being just really patient on the mountain. Like I
Mhm.
spend so many more days. I even just had this the other day where I went and sat on like a good glassing point and I felt really good about it. I was trying to just see what was in there for next shed season and didn't see anything initially, but literally within 30 minutes there it turns out there was 8 bull moose in this canyon below me that I very well could have missed. And it just like got me thinking like how many days, even shed hunting, it's like I'll sit down and glass a hillside really quick and I'm like,
Mhm.
oh, there's nothing on there.
Mhm.
But a lot of times, like if I sit down and really put in a little more time, like I can glass something up or see something that I didn't see before. But it's really taught me like a lot of their habits. I feel like that's the biggest thing. People want to find moose sheds and that's super cool, but you really have to be willing to go out and watch where they actually live because it is difficult to just look at a map and like pick a good area like I do with
Mhm.
deer and elk. Like I don't feel
Mhm.
like I can quite do that as much with moose. I would say just be patient and fall in love with the process. Like I really just enjoy getting out and watching those animals every bit as much as I like picking up their sheds. And I feel like I've found more sheds because of that. Cause you might see an animal pop out and be like keyed in on a new area you should try sometimes.
And all it takes is being patient enough to see that because sometimes those small windows where I mean, everybody does it. You're panned an area 5 times, and then on the 6th time, you're crossing it again, and you already know in your head, like, they could just step out. They step out, cross an opening, and then they're back hidden again, and it's like, well, because you are so persistent and patient enough to just we're doing this over and over again. That's such an important factor in shed hunting, hunting in general, knowing the mannerisms, what they're doing when they do it, and then leading up to that pre-scouting and where you're going to come back to in the springtime or when they start dropping, which for moose, they tend to drop earlier than elk and deer as well, right? When do you start? You found
Yeah,
that brown, you found it early, but what's the time frame that you feel like they're dropping?
it's so tough because, yeah, like, I really as much as I'd like to say I've figured it out, I haven't. Like, I've already gotten pictures of people sending me brown sheds they found or shed bulls, and it's just funny because I got some of the coolest footage of my life the other day of 8 bulls rutting. It's like,
Mhm,
obviously, they're probably not gonna shed anytime soon. So there is this big variance, which I've seen it with deer too. Couple years ago, I picked up a deer shed on January 3rd, and I saw a buck that day that I really wanted to find, big mature buck, and never ended up. Like, I spent months looking for that deer, but that deer didn't shed until the end of February, is what I decided. It's hard to know, honestly, but for the most part, it seems most of these bulls are dropping in January. Like, a big bull should be dropped by end of January, I would say, but same thing, like, I've seen decent sized bulls in March still packing, so it really,
mhm.
really varies, but I think that's a pretty good timeline.
There's always an exception to the rule for sure.
Yeah, there's
Is
nothing more aggravating than going in and seeing something run away that you wanna find the sheds off of, so that, I mean, goes right with it. Just having the patience to make sure everything's dropped in there. With moose especially, I'm walking on my tiptoes because there's one bull in all of these basins, and I don't wanna push him out before he sheds, but
yeah.
it's
Oh,
definitely
wow.
one of those things that's always a mystery. I've been scratching my head because I don't Payson Holtman, but yeah, he sent
Mhm.
me that shed bull the other day, and I was like literally sitting on a hillside watching a bunch of bigger bulls rutting. So it's just kind of interesting.
Patience is key and loving the process, like you mentioned as well.
Yeah.
Loving that process. For me, I keep saying that, but you said it just perfectly. When you just enjoy the entire process, you enjoy just finding the animals, watching the animals do their thing in nature. And when you're sitting there and you're quiet enough and you're just kind of blending into nature and they just do their thing, it's cool to see. And then those big ones come out and it's even cooler to see when those next level bulls, whether it's deer, elk, and those next level bucks step out. It's just a whole different thing that they do, and it's just cool to learn that. Speaking, it makes me want to go start.
I know. Yeah, I got finals week. I'm just sitting on the edge of my seat to get out in the hills again.
I remember that stressed out, but I'm like, I want to be out looking where it's calm and you feel at peace in your mind, stressed out, worrying about the tests.
Yeah,
I,
yeah, that's
uh,
rough.
Speaking of college, your marketing, obviously that's helping your content creation stuff. So what stuff are you learning there? What have you learned in school that you've kind of applied to your content? What goals and where do you want that to go?
So I've looked at it both ways because I'm almost done with all the prereqs for dental school. So I've been keeping all my options open because I don't know. I feel like that's a really good route, but I also feel like there's a lot of opportunities with marketing that would be super awesome. I've just learned a lot about brands specifically. I've noticed different things with brands in our industry while I'm in my classes. I try and take everything I'm learning and apply it to what I'm
Mhm.
seeing in the world, especially with marketing because everything's on social media. Like, and I've just looked at some of the successful brands that we see every day and just tried to think of ways that I could apply that into my own life and build my own brand. I feel like it's helped me just build a lot of good connections. I haven't started the business yet with it, but it has taught me like how to work with companies. So I've started working with several companies, and I feel like the huge thing in college in general, not everything you learn is useful, but the people that you meet, a lot of my professors have become friends, and I feel like they're advocates for me as well as people that would always be willing to help me in the future and would have my back. So that's been super awesome. I've really enjoyed it though. The whole marketing aspect has been fun because I've learned a lot of stuff about like finance and accounting and all those things that typically a pre-dental student wouldn't even have to really dip their toes in. So it's given me a good background on just about everything, and I feel like it's been a really useful way to go.
I think that's a very useful undergrad to go, even then to be able to turn that into branding and business as well as and
Yeah.
having that background is gonna help you for sure. Definitely.
Yeah.
But we can start wrapping it up from here. Plug in all your socials everywhere you're at. So people, if they haven't seen you or watched some of these videos, they can go find these stories so they can watch it from when you're telling. Because I do like the way you're telling the stories on the videos and showing the
Awesome.
videos and able to see what you're seeing from your perspective and then hear your story on it.
Awesome. I'm primarily just Instagram and YouTube has been the big ones. Recently just started a YouTube channel and started sharing just a bunch of my moose content. So there's going to be a bunch more stuff there, but my Instagram is just Zach Childers. I spell my name kind of weird. It's just ZAC Childers, and YouTube's the exact same thing. So I have the link to my YouTube channel on my Instagram as well. So you can get to it there. It's been really fun.
It's been awesome to watch it too, and that's on my bucket list, finding some moose sheds. Learning from it is cool too, just to see. Obviously, you hear and see how much hard work it is, and then you get to see the type of country they live in. And one of these days, but when you do it, it's like I want to put in my own work and my own homework for it, and then it's just part of that process, loving that process and working
Yeah.
through it until it works out. So
Yeah.
that's the goal. Those
They
are the
do take a
goals
lot of
for us.
work. Finding a good bull is really tough, but I'm grateful now. Man, I would have paid a lot of money for some good onyx pins for moose sheds a couple years ago, but I am super grateful now that the whole process has just made me appreciate it so much more. I was so pumped about finding a tiny moose shed even four
Oh, I
years
bet.
ago to where now like I'm still super pumped about it, but it is fun picking up some more mature stuff and
Yeah.
feeling like I'm starting to get a grip on it. You can never figure them out completely. That's for
No.
sure.
Once you think you got it figured out, you'll be humbled again.
Yeah,
That's
exactly.
awesome. Well, I appreciate you coming on, man, and I look forward to seeing what other things you're gonna pick up this coming shed season. We'll chat more for sure. I love supporting everybody out there doing their thing, so I appreciate it, and good luck with school, with shed hunting, and hunting in the future. I appreciate you coming on again, and thanks everybody for listening.
Yeah, I appreciate it. Thank you.